Hello, Victoria.
Hi, Michael. How's it going?
It's going. It looks like you've got the sugar baby with you.
Yes, this podcast I was going to talk about Sugar and her return to connection because she was such a disconnected dog when I got her and really, truly just a mess.
Well, you and Sugar have, about 14 years of history?
I've been with Sugar for 13 or 14 years. She's actually elderly at this point. And I think she's a little uncomfortable because her bed's back there and she's a creature of habit and she's not where she's supposed to be right now.
Well, we'll try to get her back to her humble sleeping pad as soon as possible. But today's episode, we get to discuss Miss Sugar.
Well, I'm talking about Sugar, but I'm also talking about any human that's had a hard time in their life, has been abused and has not felt safe around other people or can't trust them. They may well function at work, but really to open up and be vulnerable, they have not been able to do that because of, painful things that have happened in their childhood.
Okay, super. So where would you like to start?
Well, I thought I would start with how I got Sugar. I did not go the normal route where you go to the pound or, whatever dog place there is and apply for a dog. Instead, I met this woman in the woods who had Sugar with her. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's the cutest dog. And so I reached out to touch her and she strained as far away as she could on the leash and acted like I was going to literally hit her or attack her in some way.
Oh.
And, I think most people at that point would have said to themselves, this would not be a good dog to adopt. But when the woman told me that she was fostering the dog, I was like, oh yeah, I'd be really into thinking about adopting her.
Well, and so I'm guessing the rest is kind of history after that.
Well, yes, like I said, I didn't know what I was getting into. When I brought her home, she really was not interested in affection. Speaking of connection, she, spent most of her time under the dining room table. And, I was hoping for this cuddly, she's losing a lot of hair, cuddly, warm companion. And she was still trying to keep as far away as she could from human connection. So I decided that I wasn't going to let her get away with that. I wasn't going to just have her be this disconnected dog for the rest of her life. So I spent time under the dining room table with her almost every day, 5-10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and we would talk, and she would kind of try to get away, and I would just be like, nope, this is not going to happen. You are not going to, have no connection to human beings. And I think one of the reasons that she was so scared of people, I don't know her history, but she had distemper and a vet saved her and she spent a couple months by herself in a cage. Oh. So she wasn't able to learn that human beings were a source of warmth and food and pets, which she definitely has, definitely enjoys at this point. So I had to convince her that humans weren't just somebody that put you in a cage. They were actually interested in loving her. And that took a long time. I'm telling you that getting her to the point where she loved one human being, which is really about how much she cares about, I'm pretty much her only person, took a long time.
Well, I know I've known Sugar for just over 2 years, and she still greets me with barking and loudness every single time, so clearly I'm not her person.
Yeah, there's only one person, and she follows me everywhere. If I'm in my office working, she's in my office working. If I'm in the bedroom, she's laying down on her special spot between the bed and the wall, which, by the way, she proclaimed early on in our connection that if she was really scared, she went and hid in the little slot between the bed and the wall and wouldn't come out until she felt like it was safe again. And that was quite often. So some other fun things and fun facts about Sugar is she did not know how to walk on a leash, but she didn't know how to walk off a leash either. And she had never been around dogs. So I had another dog that was a very self-confident animal in the woods, and I let Sugar off the leash for a little while, which was a bad idea because she didn't know that she was supposed to come back. But anyway, she tried to walk down a log with my other dog and immediately fell off into the sticker bushes. And, you know, anything that required coordination, she just was terrible at. And then when I put her on the leash, she was like, I remember saying, this dog is like a kangaroo. She literally would get up on two legs and hop down the trail. So you could see that she had never had that experience of, you know, being able to, you know, walk or have a connection with a human and know that it was safe. And the other thing, I remember taking her to the park, and I got back home and I was like, where's Sugar? And she had literally wormed her way underneath the seat, if you can imagine. She was probably 20 pounds lighter. She was maybe 15 pounds later. She had obviously not had enough to eat, and when she's stressed, she stops eating. And so I was looking everywhere. I thought somehow that I had left the door open and she had hopped out. Did she go out the window? I was just freaking out. And then I found this dog. I mean, she was like part amoeba. I mean, I don't even know how she got under there. And getting her out was, you know, a difficult expedition. But managed to get her back out, and that was kind of our relationship for several months. It's like I'm trying to get close to her. She's like trying to get away from me. She's hiding everywhere she can hide. And then I remember one time somehow the door got left open in our house, and my other dog, Belle, decided she was going to go on an expedition again. And Sugar, she just decided, there's one thing I know, and I know that I live in this house. I don't know the human. I don't have a connection with the human, but I have a connection with this house. And it made me think about people that hoard and how they bring home objects because people actually feel dangerous. So, you know, their memories are connected to, you know, visual objects, but when it comes to people, they often have people, but they're not able to go inside and really be vulnerable and show who they are. So hoarding is another addiction, since we're talking about addiction and connection, and it often shows up as a lack of connection with other people. So Sugar was connected to the house, but she wasn't connected to a person. And that was what the hard work was, is finding a way to get connected to a person. And then eventually she connected to my other dog. But she didn't like other animals, but when she was with Belle, she felt safe. And then eventually my dog Belle was older and she died, and Sugar literally didn't eat for 2 weeks. I took her into the vet because I was afraid she was sick, and the vet's like, nope, she is just grieving. That was her safe person, her safe dog, and it disappeared, and she's having a really hard time. So we worked through that with her, and I would say she's had a really good life. But I would also say that most people that would adopt this dog would have given up on her a long time ago. She was a lot of work to become, like I said, connected to a human.
Well, I know she's certainly been on a whole lot of family adventures in multiple states, and
Yep.
you know, it actually would have made a really good Disney movie, some of the adventures that you guys described to me as you took Sugar and Belle on. So
Yeah.
even though she's a little barky towards me, I think she recognizes that I'm a safe person. I just think that sometimes she just wants to make sure that I know that it was her house first.
Yes, that's right, because that was her first attachment. So I also wanted to say, we oftentimes have a feral animal inside of us. If we have not been raised in a loving, caring environment where compassion is, you know, how we're treated when we're having a hard time, eventually, you know, yeah, we may be able to walk through the world looking okay, but there's a part of us that is not connected. and literally is feral. And finding a way to really connect to that part of ourselves is a big challenge. And I often say, you know, as a therapist, some of my clients I wish I could sit under the table with for, you know, several months, and I think it would make all the difference. They did not have that loving connection. They did not have someone sitting by them, holding their hand, putting their arm around them when they were having a hard time. And if that could be part of of therapy, I think for many people it would make all the difference.
I know as a kid that we often made clubhouses out of blankets in our room, so we'd have a place that we could go that was home, but also a place within the home that was our secret safe place. And I guess that went on until I got a tree house, and that became my safe place. But I think for me, I actually didn't want the rest of the family in my space.
Well, let's say, you know, I think that old cliche, being raised by wolves,
Yes.
applies to your life, and that you found a way to survive it. But I am sure early on it was hard for you to feel safe enough to connect. You found things that you loved to do, different sports and activities, but people, really opening up to people is terrifying when you feel, again, like you are feral. No one's really there.
You know, my domestication process took many years. You know, along with that, you know, I was immediately housebroken to where I knew not to destroy my living environment. But as far as, you know, claiming it as a safe space, that didn't happen until I had a space that was actually just mine. And it took a while, and much like Sugar, you know, in between all of that learning, you know, I would go out in the world and experience certain things. And we might want to point out that it is our first episode of the spring, and Sugar is volunteering her winter coat without rejection here. But it took many years and different exposures in situations with people, you know, the military, high school, getting away from the things that felt unsafe before I decided to discover myself. And, you know, I guess if we were to compare my life in dog years, Sugar and I were probably about the same age when we made peace with, like, you know, I'm as safe as I allow myself to be. And so, you know, it's a process, and some people don't actually realize why they behave the way they do. They don't realize that they're dealing with a part of them that they haven't put a name on, you know, their feral animal, as you described from the beginning of our talk. And I think if people were able to identify that, you know, it'll probably take some help, you know, some professional intervention. But once they realize that there's that wildness that needs to be tamed and accepted and brought into the fold, I think that, you know, there can be a harmony with your feral animal, because it doesn't have to be completely domesticated. You just have to be able to recognize, you know, what it's capable of and what you're capable of, you know, in order so that you can exist together. It's kind of like people having their, I like to call it my inner teenager that comes out, you know, often destructive, sometimes disruptive, you know, but we've come to an agreement, you know, I'll give you what you want as long as you don't embarrass us in public. That sounded really parental, didn't it?
Yeah. So I just wanted to read a poem that I wrote about Sugar, and then we're going to complete this episode. As always, I have more to say, but I don't want to make it too long.
Okay.
So,
well, Sugar, you have your own literary presentation.
yeah, I wrote a poem about Sugar, which my ex-husband told me I should never read a poem on air because once you do that, you can't publish it. But I've given up on that, so I don't think I fit in the literary niche, and that's okay at this point.
Well, the poem was for Sugar and your appreciation of her, so.
Yeah. So this is called Sugar is Not Sweet.
Oh, okay.
Sugar lived under my dining room table. The dog flinched if I touched her, shook as I wove my fingers through her thick white coat. When I leashed her, she took the leash for a whip and bucked like a furry bronco, then hopped down the trail on 2 legs, imitating a kangaroo. Even though emaciated, Sugar slunk from her food bowl and refused chicken from my extended hand. She barked if she saw her shadow in the window or a door opened, if something was bumped or dropped, a paper fluttered to the floor. She growled each time my husband entered the room and growled again when he left. Sugar hid under the car seat when we drove, her body wedged into a 6-inch space like an octopus, able to squish herself into any crevice. When I hauled her out by the collar, her huge black eyes rolled in their sockets, and her body, resembling a large stuffed animal, shook so hard her teeth chattered. Sugar ran and hid in the bedroom if friends came to visit. She squirmed under the chest of drawers and refused to come out. In the fenced backyard, Sugar ate her way out. She chewed like a beaver through the thick rails, leaving chunks of fur and blood on the tattered wood. Sugar would not come, sit, stay, or obey. In an open field, Sugar ran headlong into a fence twice. She did not know how to romp in the woods and fell off logs and tripped over roots. After a year of doggy insanity, Sugar starts to come to work with me. Frantic to get to the office, she runs to the screen door, opens it with her head, and races across the drive to my other house. She lies behind my chair at a little table, her head wedged between the table legs. Patients come to me and talk about parents who left them like a dog in the yard. Beatings in the name of training, the twisted wisdom of kids raised by rapists, lunatics, and idiots. Sugar watches but never comes out from behind the table. She does not wag her tail or sniff an extended hand. Sometimes I reach down beside my chair and she places her throat in my palm. How much kindness, how much love to bring us back to this world. Sugar has shown me that every animal can find her way home.
That's nice. I think that's one thing that Sugar and I have in common. You've written poems about both of us.
Yep.
That, and I'm still a little feral.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm a little feral too. I just, at this point, do not allow myself to lose it anymore. So that's about the end of our episode. And again, I'm Victoria Roten.
And I'm Michael Jones, and that is Sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
Not so sweet Sugar.
That's right. But still a wonderful dog.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful.
And we're thankful that you guys have tuned in to our conversation about connection and finding our way home.
That's right.
And if you're out there and you're still looking for your home, don't give up. You know, home is out there.
I have to agree 100%. If Sugar can find a home, you can find a home.